training mediators to excel through role-play simulations, part of the series Current Events and Conflict Resolution with Thomas G. Giglione.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Lawyers and Mediators international show and podcast from instantmediations.com. It's where we discuss law and conflict resolution topics to educate both professionals and everyday people. Please remember, nothing contained in these episodes constitutes legal advice, so please talk to your lawyer as cases are fact-dependent.
Hi, I'm Mac Pierre-Louis, attorney, mediator, and arbitrator working in Texas and Florida.
And I am Natalia Olowska Pierre, advocate, mediator, and arbitrator.
And I'm Thomas Giglione, originally from Toronto, Canada, now based in Southeast Asia in Vietnam.
So let's get started with today's topic, but please remember, you can catch this discussion and past and future shows on the website, instantmediations.com, on the Lawyer and Mediators International YouTube channel, and on its podcast, all conveniently from the Instant Mediations app. So be sure to stay connected. All right, Thomas and Natalia, I'll let you guys lead the way.
Thank you so much. Thomas, you have proven to be a very successful coach, and one of your coaching tools have become role-play simulations. Could you tell us what benefits it gives to the participants and why do you recommend using them? I understand both for the baby mediators as well as when you are already a mediator doing the job.
Yeah, well, basically, it's all part of preparation. I think when mediators want to be effective, they need to prepare. And part of the preparation, in my cases that I've used, I used a videotape. I videotape the preparation before the role plays. And if they're mediation competitions, if they're specific trainings, the camera, for me, is the key tool to get the feedback to the participants for training.
So, Thomas, when we talked about role-play simulations before, right, in a prior discussion with you, and we had hinted at that time that you had done mediation trainings where you've gotten awards for some of your students. So first off, how do you even get to go to these events? Where are they hosted? Why do they exist? Who sets them up? Can you tell us, for the people who don't really know that much about competitions where role-play simulations are actually held, can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes. Well, in the last 15 years, I've traveled over 30 countries, and in almost every country, well, in about 10 of the countries, I've been involved with clinical legal education, doing pro bono work. So through that pro bono work, I got to know law students, got involved with the moot. I'm also an international arbitrator, ad hoc arbitrator, dealing with moot mediations and arbitrations. So when you get in that realm, you naturally get invited. People get to know. So basically doing pro bono clinical legal education with the universities, either arbitration and mediation, gets you noticed and gets you invited to international competitions all over the world. Now, because of the COVID, that's it's all online, and it's affected it a bit. But I think by next year, I think everything will be quasi normal, and there'll be more opportunities for real live coaching.
That's awesome. Tell us, please, what then kind of tips do you give to participants to be successful in those role-play simulations?
Growing up in North America and also training in mediation, the Bible for mediators is getting to yes. Okay. But I really recommend students or any mediator wants to be trained as a mediator. This is their book. I've read this book, I think it's a very short read. It's available on Amazon really cheap. And I'm really surprised, like even in Southeast Asia, many people are not have never heard of this book. And whereas, you know, in our North American mindset and even European mindset, it's you know, I know it's an international bestseller, but it definitely is necessary. The foundation, you need to know the foundations of mediation. And for me, that's before I even start training, it's mandatory that they read that book by Roger Fisher and William Ury. They were the pioneers for negotiation training, not training, but negotiation mechanism for a win-win dispute resolution. So for me, is before I even start, students must read that book and understand it.
Yeah, no, Getting to Yes was one of the books in our curriculum when I was doing mediation training out in Texas years back. So it's definitely a must read, along with several other related books. So a few years ago, there was a Singapore convention, all right? And at that convention, there were mediation competitions that were held by different, mediation training students. And you were there at the convention, right?
Yes.
And you participated with training some of the students. Can you tell us a little bit about that experience and then what actually happened with your students?
Well, I'm actually a guest lecturer at Hanoi Law University and several other law universities in Vietnam. And mediation is brand new here in Vietnam, and they don't teach it in the universities. And there was this opportunity for international competition for and I mentioned it to the dean, and they said, well, you know, our students aren't trained. We only have 2 months. And I says, I'll do it, you know. So my students were not trained in mediation, knew very little about it. I got them to read Getting to Yes. I coached them a couple times a week over the course of, actually, we had 30 days to prepare. So the MOOC competition was held on August 2nd, 2019, before COVID, at the National University of Singapore. 140 students participated, 40 teams, 17 countries. Teams came from all over the world: Bangladesh, Brazil, China, Indonesia. And lo and behold, I was very shocked to learn that my students won both the gold and silver medals.
Amazing.
That's really amazing. And so what does make you, and what are the secrets to be such a successful coach?
There are several things. As I mentioned, for me, to get the feedback from the camera, and also to be prepared. Preparation is very important. For example, there's tons of videos online, so I really recommend, but don't overwhelm yourself with the videos. So you basically have a situation where you will have, for example, certain tasks and certain criteria. Every competition has criteria for how the judges will evaluate the participants. So it's best to get a copy of that and match what the judges are looking for, and match it with what they're looking for, and basically to excel in each area what the judges are looking for. Now, different competitions have different criteria for judging, so you want to focus on what the judges are looking for, and kind of fine tune it to that, and have your peak moment in each criteria. Practice it over several sessions, again, under camera.
So little tips for the judges and how that's happening, but what about specific tips you give to participants?
Well, basically, it's the old, how you acknowledge the phrases. I create simulations so students use these, for acknowledging. What do you think about that? What do you feel about that? The affirmations, the checking, the clarifying, future focus, when to use them. So we create simulations so students really, really feel comfortable with those phrases. Reality testing, how do you think this situation will work out? What's the effect of that? All the phrases that we use, summarizing. But for me, the key is the opening statement. The opening statement is probably the most important, where you really show your confidence. It's the way, it's probably the first impression. It's like, you're going to get a job. They say, HR people say, the first 5 minutes they decide whether or not they're going to hire you. So the opening statement is the first impression, and I really focus on the first impression. I also focus on having fun. These competitions should not be stressful. It should be an opportunity to have fun. So also, I look at nonverbal communication. You're all familiar with TED Talks, and they did a big study. You could Google it, TED Talks, and in the study, they found out what is the best presenter. What are the traits for the best presenter? And they narrowed it down to one thing: body language. Body language is the key. So I train students with body language, like even subliminal things. Like, for example, I get all my students to get a clickable pen, like little subtle things that are subliminal. And when they're thinking, I get them to click the pen, like little things that are kind of showing the other party that what you're doing or what they're doing to kind of lead the way, and to mark specific markers in the mediation, what needs to be done. Caucusing to me is very important. I notice, in fact, many law schools don't even teach caucusing or even incorporate caucusing. To me, I cannot mediate without caucusing. I cannot. To me, it's a very powerful tool. So it's a mediation within a mediation, and involves a different set of skills. So you got to separate those kinds of skills. So I do simulations, design simulations, just for the caucus, just for the mediation. Simulations pre-mediation. So 3 different kinds of stages for preparing participants in competitions or training.
Okay, and I heard that you teach mediation students to use logical fallacies in mediation training. How does this work?
Yeah, this is, I really recommend all lawyers and everybody to learn logical fallacies. The political climate in the United States right now, I listen to politicians and I'm thinking, that's this, that's the red herring, that's a slippery slope, and a lot of mediators are not aware of these logical fallacies, and these logical fallacies are often used by others in the mediation, and it's really, really important that you understand what they are and how they're used. But this is, I can admit something that maybe I shouldn't.
Uh-oh.
I use logical fallacies. I use logical fallacies for the other side, and they're not aware of it. But my students are aware of it. They know when they're being played. You know what I mean? And they know when they're using straw man or, all the other ones, red herrings and all the rest of it. We could do a whole different show on logical fallacies, and perhaps we should, because I really, really believe they're used all the time. They're used every day. And my wife used it today. I was aware of it, but she has no idea that what a logical fallacy is, but she uses it. You know what I mean? It's a human thing to do. Bandwagon and all the rest of it. So for me is I would study all the logical fallacies, be aware the other side is using it, and use it yourself. If they're not aware of it, it's a key tool to get a win-win solution. So, like I said, I think we should do a whole different podcast on logical fallacy, because I find it fascinating. I find it fascinating.
Well, thank you for that, because I absolutely agree. And I think the logical fallacy that I see come up in my personal life over and over and over again is the one called appeal to emotion, where someone tries to argue against you based on something that is, I guess, by appealing to an emotional position that's not rational. But you're right. Strawman arguments, slippery slope, all these logical fallacies, these are things that should be curriculum in basic law schools. I mean, even law students are not even taught through it. But mediators.
Schopenhauer's heuristics, the heuristics for lawyers.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but mediators, in their traditional 40-hour trainings, you're absolutely correct. I do not see that being discussed. Okay. And rational thinking and rational thought and going through the process of how you think, metacognition and all that, you have to go through it, and study it. Otherwise, you risk being played, okay, by someone who could try to outsmart the whole entire system. But anyway, we'll definitely touch back on that as a whole nother topic, because that would be very fascinating. But briefly, could you connect everything you're talking about regarding simulations and role plays to then, I guess, at the corporate level or the organization level? Because we've been talking more about individuals at this point, right? But how can you use role-play simulations to help organizations?
That's a great question. I like that, because that's what I do. First of all, in these, competitions, the simulations are already set. Okay. And so I use simulations for preparation. But in what you're saying for a corporate, for dispute resolution systems, where you have organizations where you have to do a case study of the organization. What are the, do surveys with the employees. Where are the most conflicts? Where do they come from? And from that, through that case management intake from surveys, you get to all the information to do customized training for it's called dispute resolution design. So you could design in a corporate world, in a corporate entity, a mechanism where there is a system in place. It could be anonymous suggestions or whatever is in place. It could be using applications, for example. A lot of there's a lot of management tools where they get notified whenever there is a dispute, and who's going to handle it. Especially for HR people, they have a lot to do, and we specifically customize for dispute resolution design, and everyone is all of them are different, because every entity, every corporation has different disputes. It could be coming, from R&D. It could be coming from whatever it is. If it's a startup, I was dealing with a dispute mechanism for a startup, a large unicorn in Singapore, and it was specifically one department. So when you want to do simulations, you don't want to do simulations for a general way. You want to customize it for the client. So that's why simulations are the key for fine-tuning where the conflict is, where's the source of the conflict, and then creating simulations to resolve that conflict, have the participants play out the different roles. It's a magical tool, and it took me a long time to come to this conclusion, but I think it's probably customized simulations is probably the best tool that any mediator involved as an ombudsman person or anybody involved with corporate dispute resolution design must have in their in their belt.
Thank you so much. I think that by this time, you have convinced everybody who was listening or watching that Roleplay Simulations is a perfect tool for everything, to make you as a mediator excel, to make you as a human being argue in a wiser and better way, and to make everyone coming to a better and simpler solution. Respecting other people, understanding the mechanism or how the conflict is being created and how it is then being disarmed and resolved. And I hope that we will continue expanding on it, especially through those logical fallacies, as every one of us seem to be fascinated by that. And that can have another practical meaning in our lives as mediators, arbitrators, and just people and friends. And therefore, I would encourage everyone who's listening to tune in to our next series with Thomas Giglione. And I thank you so much, Thomas, for all your expertise and for wanting to share it with us via instantmediations.com and the Instant Mediations app. Stay tuned.